Hey guys, welcome to BX Live at Lunch. I am Jason,
I'm Zach.
and today we're going to talk about motivation and discipline. We're going to kind of take a deeper look into how people create disciplines and behavior changes that are positive for their outcome and what the motivation is behind that.
Yep.
Cool deal. So we're going to start out by defining motivation, and then we'll also define discipline, and then we'll go into a couple of things, to a couple of topics of how you guys can move forward with your new behavior changes and how that might look in a fitness atmosphere. So starting off with, if you have questions, please feel free to put them right there in that comment below. If you're watching, let us know you're watching. We have our comments right here. We'll be able to read them and answer your questions while we're talking. So we look forward to some of your interactions. And I think that's about it. So Zach, let's start off with the definition of motivation. What do you have there, buddy?
Yeah, so motivation for me is basically what drives you to get something done, whether that be a goal, a task, everyday thing, anything like that.
Good stuff. So I have the definition of motivation. I actually looked it up. I went to Google, typed in motivation definition.
Good old friend Google.
Absolutely. But you got to be careful because that first definition, you never know. I actually went to the Merriam-Webster site and looked it up, and it said the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. And that is, as you said, the drive, desire behind what someone is doing and moving them in the direction that they're going.
Yep.
And the definition for discipline is an orderly or prescribed conduct or behavior, somewhat of self-control, or being able to do a behavior over and over again. Sometimes you'll hear people start or state, hey, you're so disciplined in this aspect of your life, or you have so much discipline when you're doing this. What is that like? How do you stay disciplined? So we're going to discuss that as a whole. We've gone through a couple of other speakers and some studies and kind of looked at different ways in which people create new behaviors and new habits over time, especially with weight loss, strength, or a competition, and how they may or may not get better are the topics we're going to kind of hit on today. So Zach, tell us what you got to start off with.
Yeah, so one of the people we looked up was James Clear, author of Atomic Habits. He has a video on YouTube. Yep, he has some videos on YouTube you guys can check out for some context, but he talks about the 4 laws of behavior change. So when we're looking at motivation, we're looking at more of the short-term habit building, and then once you have those habits, it kind of turns into discipline as you go along.
Correct.
So the 4 laws of behavior change that he had were, 1, it has to be obvious.
Okay.
2, it has to be easy. If it's not easy, you're not going to end up doing it. 3, it has to be attractive to you. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. And then 4 was satisfying. It has to, in turn, satisfy you. If it doesn't satisfy you after doing it the first few times, it's probably not going to be something you stick with long term.
Yeah, so we're talking about these 4 laws. We're going to start with obvious. In the process of, we'll just say weight loss is the goal. I want to lose weight. I have maybe 35, 40 pounds I think I should be able to lose. But I have the bad habit of not going to the gym. So obviously at that particular part, obviously somewhere along the lines, you have to get up and go to the gym.
Right.
So you've kind of got to make that obvious. But just getting up and working out is not going to be the thing. So when you have trouble creating a new habit or creating new discipline, you want to break it down to its smallest part and work your way back through the most difficult phases of it to get there. So when he says obvious, the obvious thing about working out might just be going to the gym.
Right. It's really about breaking down that friction. So getting through that first 2 minutes, he talks about setting yourself up with a starting ritual.
Yep.
So for someone that's just getting off work, just getting to the gym, getting your workout clothes on and scanning into the gym or checking into the gym, it's going to be more friction at that point for you to leave and go home than it is to go through your workout and finish it and then go home.
Right. So when we're talking about, so like we said, the obvious part is getting to the gym. So then you have to get to the gym, and then you have to make getting to the gym as easy as possible.
Yep.
We use the term friction, and friction scientifically is when you have a force working or acting against you, so it's harder to move forward with that. So by easing the friction, it may take something like, you're going to work out in the morning, one, setting your alarm,
Yep.
and then two,
building those little mini habits around those.
The mini habits.
Yep.
So like number 2 might be laying out your clothes the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And for some of you, it might be sleeping in your gym clothes. So that way you don't necessarily have to wake up and try to find something. Because I know for the longest time, there's been times in which laundry might not be done, or you might have been like late getting your laundry done and you have to go somewhere. Do you ever spend way too much time looking for socks?
Yeah.
Or an undershirt.
Yeah.
By the time you found your socks, you're like 5 minutes into getting ready and you haven't done anything.
Yeah.
But ease that up. Try to get stuff prepared the night before and then slide it in there. And then it has to be attractive.
Yeah.
So when we talk about attractive in, let's say, weight loss or trying to build a habit towards exercise, find something you like to do.
Yeah.
There are many things in which you can do as far as walking, riding a bike, weightlifting, dancing, starting out with those small steps to get you moving. One
Exactly.
of the things that James Clear talks about is improving 1% every day. He has that book called Atomic Habits, which is where a lot of the stuff we're talking about is coming from. So if you look it up, we'll put a link to the talk and the book in the comments below here. But if you look up Atomic Habits, you'll find out that getting 1% better every day is not something you can continuously do over time. But improving something every day is something you can do, or starting a new small habit every day is something that you can do. I think it goes along and says it will take 200 days to improve if you do the same 1% over 200 days with 2 days rest in between, like you do Monday through Friday, take Saturday, Sunday off. You'll get better 10% over the course of the year. But we know that's a very hard thing to do.
Absolutely. And I think it just takes building those mini habits and breaking it down to make it easier and make it less of a scary process. Like going to the gym can be a handful if you haven't already started in building that habit. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you have to get up earlier or go after you're already tired from work. So just breaking it down into those smaller habits really helps.
So if you break it down into those smaller habits, take them, they don't have to all come at one time. That's what we mean by breaking it down to the smaller habits. It's not like break it down to a smaller habit, go into the gym and get up. It might be for 2 weeks, you just wake up at that time.
Yeah.
And then for another 2 weeks, then you set your clothes out the night before.
Yeah. And he actually talks about a guy too that the guy was only allowed to go to the gym for 5 minutes every time he went.
I thought that was pretty
and just
cool
building that habit, and then eventually it gets to the point where he's fine with staying for a longer time, getting in a full workout, and it just becomes second nature.
So the next step is the end result has to be satisfying, and not just the end goal, right? Weight loss, 40 pounds from now, is satisfying and sounds amazing, but that's not the actual satisfying part. The habit itself has to be satisfying. The habits that get you to the end goal have to be satisfying.
Yep.
So you have to have some form of gratification of, I went to the gym. That doesn't mean go to the gym and then in order to be satisfied for going to the gym, I get to have a donut. That's not how that works.
Yep.
No, but going to the gym and then usually there's some form of endorphin, there's some form of hormonal kick that allows you to feel better about yourself after you've gone to the gym.
Absolutely. One of the strategies he actually talks about, sync and score, the score part specifically, actually talks about tracking habits with like a habit tracker that you check lists off. Mm-hmm. And just that checklist is kind of like getting likes on Instagram, right? Your serotonin goes off, you get a spark of happiness for a little bit. Same thing with the checklist, whereas with working out, you already get that spark after you're done working out. You get those endorphins going, so it helps a lot.
It's just not as simple as clicking the like button on your Instagram or scrolling through the Instagram pages, but you get it. So there is that satisfying thing. So to sum up what we've done so far, there are the 4 laws of behavior change. So when you're looking to change a behavior, you want to make sure that it's obvious. The behavior is obvious. You want to ease the friction and make that behavior change easy. And then you want to make it attractive, and there has to be some form of satisfaction at the end of the behavior change. So from there, we start creating a little bit more discipline. We start creating better habits throughout our day that allow us to accomplish the end goal. So the thing is, motivations are going to change over time. So just because you have an end goal of losing 30 to 40 pounds in February, by the time you get to March, the reason you may want to lose that 30 to 40 pounds might change as you get closer and closer to the goal. So there has to be some form of a sliding scale of satisfaction, or some form of an understanding that motivation is going to slide back and forth. You're going to feel like doing it, you're going to not feel like doing it.
And going off that, it's going to be way easier to feel motivated when it's sunny and 75 outside than it's cold. You got to get in your car when it's raining. It's going to be a lot harder to get to the gym. So there's going to be those days where you're super motivated and you want to get it done. And there's going to be those days where you really don't. And it's about balancing out. On those days that you're super motivated, you're not going too hard doing 3-hour workouts in the gym. And those days that you're not motivated at all, you're not just sitting around the house doing nothing.
And motivation doesn't just come from the whimsical memes you get on your Facebook page or your Instagram channel. Those things are fun, and you can read them and you can get hyped up, but they're only going to last for a certain amount of time. Because at some point in time, you may look at it and say, that's just not realistic for me.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not that guy who's going to do what that meme says. But you can start with those little habits, and once you can use those little memes for a short-term burst, or if you need a motivational,
it's like a spark to get you going.
Exactly, it's like a car, exactly. We'll call it a spark plug. We'll call them spark plug memes, and you can have a spark plug meme that helps get you sparked and helps get you fired up and ready to go. And then you have to start creating the smaller habits with a little bit of friction that allow you to continue that process.
Right. Don't think they'll always be there. Like, I need to work out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you're expecting a spark every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday like clockwork. You got to use them as a spark to get going, to build those long-term habits.
Yep.
So that when your spark's not there, you have the discipline to still make yourself go to the gym, still make yourself work out.
Yeah, because everybody's had that thing in which you've done for so long that you can do it almost mindlessly. And that's where you want your habits to get to. Whether you're excited about going or you're not excited, but you've created that opportunity for you to at least be successful.
Yep.
And you've lowered that friction. There are a couple things that I'm going to go through, some statements that we're going to dive into that we've talked about before. The easier the activity, the easier it is for us to create a habit for it. Right? So as simple as, like we said earlier, getting up, or setting your shoes out and socks out. Those are simple things. And once those things are done, you can break those down a little bit smaller and then continue to build up on that.
Right.
One of the other things I liked that we've read or heard or talked about is if you fix the inputs, then you'll fix the outputs. A lot of people will try to fix the output before they fix the input. An example would be, and one that was given in the book in another talk, was that you can fix your room after it's dirty, but if you don't fix the behaviors that cause it to be dirty, all you're doing is put a Band-Aid on the situation.
Yeah, it's like treating the symptoms but not the root cause.
Correct. So instead of saying, I want to work out, let me go to the gym, then you say, let me create smaller habits in between there that allow me to be successful in the long run. Or let me change the way I eat, so that way the next time I need to get to the gym, I'm not trying to fight a 30-pound or 40-pound battle.
Right. I think we've both done this too. I'm not always motivated to run, but if I set my shoes out and I put them on and I just walk out the door and just get through those first 2 minutes, then I'm good to go.
So one of the habits I had to pick up, because I can get going in the morning and not drink a thing of water. So literally just not drink any water and just go. And before I know, I'm like, man, I'm thirsty. But in order to get the appropriate amount of water, and this is simple, it doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but it's a big deal when training, because my hydration will affect how I feel when I start training. I will take my big container and I'll make sure before I do anything, the first thing I drink is that bottle of water or that container of water. So that way I know I start with water and then I'll end my day with a big cup of water. And everything in between, I know I'm going to try at least get 1 or 2 glasses of water, but I know at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, there's going to be containers that I'm sipping on that help with those. That'll help me make sure I'm hydrated throughout the day.
You'll see people do that with the gallon jugs too. They'll mark them off. This is where I need to be at 9 a.m. This is where I need to be. And just doing that and setting it outside or out on the counter every morning.
And the point of that is to ease the friction.
Yep.
There's another one, repetition leads to habit. So in repetition leads to habit, when I was a wrestler, and my wrestling coach, who was my dad, which is always actually pretty cool, he used to come up with these phrases all the time. He'd say, focus, 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 repetition, repetition, repetition. And what are we doing? Focus. And so we would do the same drills over and over and over and over again. Sit out, boom, sit out, boom, sit out, boom. What would it be? Snap the arm, snap the arm, snap the arm, boom. Then you run the half, run the half, run the half, repetition, repetition, repetition. And when I coach soccer, it's a very similar aspect of getting better. It's touches on touches on touches, thousands of touches. When I'm coaching weightlifting, we repeat technically sound, the technical part of the move over and over again with little weight, with little friction, just to make sure that when you actually get the bar in your hand, that it moves smoothly. Now, if the weight's heavy, that's a completely different thing. But as long as you know how to move well, you're probably going to execute appropriately.
Yeah, it's sort of rewiring your brain to get that muscle memory down. It's the same thing as if you're waking up and you're tired. You automatically know one way that I can make myself untired is to get that cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And then that cup of coffee makes me a little bit more alert. That's my reward.
Yeah.
It's simple stuff like that you don't think is actually habits that are actually habits that you do.
And I bet during this current time that people have found out that they had more habits than they anticipated.
Absolutely.
Once they had to get out. Oh, I didn't realize I did that, or I needed that, or that was a big part of my day, but it is. Yep. And we have so many habits that we're just unaware of when we go through things. Like, you may not have known that you like to hit the snooze button and that was going to be a problem for you getting up to work out until you decided to get up and work out. And all of a sudden you realize you hit the snooze button 4 times. So that's a habit you're going to have to break. But one of the things we've been talking about is easing the friction.
Yep.
But we actually haven't talked about what are some things that cause friction. And one of the internal things that causes friction is self-judging. So the lower self-esteem, or the I'm not that person, that right there will stop a lot of people from doing what they do. Oh, I'm not the person that wakes up early. That's not me. Well, why not?
Yeah.
I'm not the person who works out. That's not me. Well, why not? I'm not the person who prepares my food. That's just not me.
And I think it's worsened in the fitness world with Instagram and stuff like that too, which is higher expectations.
Because they're looking at what somebody else's perfection on Instagram as opposed
with
to
hundreds of filters on it.
Hundreds of filters, and not really taking a look at what that person did to either get in that shape, or the effort it took for them to post that picture with all the adjustments.
Yep.
Somewhere along the line, there is effort prior to the picture that you see at the end as the end result. Whether it's editing, or whether it's working out, or whether it's trainings. Effort has to go into something before it can actually be a product. And the less effort, chances are, the less quality it's going to be.
Yep, absolutely.
So some of the other things that are self-judging, you might tell yourself before you get started that you might not do it, right? Oh, I'm not going to do that. That's definitely going to do that. I'm not saying that you might not feel that way, but at some point in time, you have to talk yourself into that process. So judging yourself and thinking that you're not that person who works out is going to do more harm than actually thinking of yourself as someone who can work out. You may not be the workout person now. The word yet is one of the most powerful words that we can use.
Yep.
I'm not there yet.
I think there's 2 ways you can look at it. What comes to mind for me is I am a sum of my actions. You can be what you are now, someone that's not in that routine, not in the habits, or you can change your habits and start being the person that wakes up early.
Exactly. You can always be the person you're trying to be. And a lot of that might help by telling yourself you're there, or you're coming there, and say, oh, I woke up early today. I'm almost there. I got my clothes ready. I'm starting to be there. I'm getting there. Giving yourself encouragement along the way is one of the biggest things you can do, and not be your biggest critic.
Yeah. Don't be hard on yourself. Just hold yourself accountable. There's a big difference there.
So one of the terms we like to use is grace. Have grace with yourself. Even if you're not there yet, that doesn't mean you can't get there. So yeah. That's what I got.
Absolutely.
So as we're going to finish that up, let's summarize what we've got so far. We said before we're going to put a link to James Clear's talk underneath this so you guys can look it up. His talk is on his tour when he was doing everything about Atomic Habits. That was the book. It's a really good book. But if you'll go over the 4 laws of behavior change.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first is obvious, has to be obvious. 2 is ease or easy. So the more friction there is, the less likely you are to stick to it. 3, it has to be attractive, has to be something that you really want to do or want to accomplish. And then 4, it has to be satisfying. If it's not satisfying, you're not going to stick with it long term.
Good. And a couple points I want you guys to take home with you is that repetition is going to lead to habit. So make sure whatever you're doing, you can do the smallest portion of it over and over and over again. Just take it step by step. The next thing is create systems that enable you to find success. So if the system's big, break the system down to its smallest parts, and that's where you'll start your behavior changes and your beginning atomic habits from there.
And I just want to conclude by saying as you build these habits, you'll gain your discipline where you don't need as much of a spark, you don't need any spark, you'll just go and do it. Discipline basically numbs the reasons that the habits aren't going to go through. So if it's a little bit tougher, but you have discipline, you'll still get it done.
Absolutely. So instead of relying on some, like we said, the magic meme to get you going, then once you start creating those habits, then the discipline starts to take over. And you don't have to worry about having a spark or a meme spark that allows you to say, I'm the man, I'm about to go. You just get into the habit, and the body tends to fall in line for the habits once you've created them.
Yeah, we're creatures of habit. So as you build those routines, you'll fall into it and it'll just be like muscle memory.
Cool deal. Well, we thank you guys for watching, and that's today's BX Live at Lunch. If you have any questions, still feel free to ask them in the comments down below, and we will see you guys next time.
See ya.